Hello, hello, welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us. As always, we appreciate your time. We know you've got lots of options out there, and we like that you're choosing us. Today, I'm going to do, look, I ran out of time. In all reality, I work for a living. This is something that I do in an attempt to just make a difference, to try to help people in life. And so I ran out of time. I'm not going to be able to do as many individual topics as I would prefer here at the end of the year. And I'm not even sure. I was thinking about putting together a highlights from the year, and I don't think I may even be able to do that. So, maybe it'll give me an opportunity next year to do something new. I want to do a final year in review sort of recap of the major stories out there, and try to provide a little bit of a therapeutic twist to each of them. What is it that we could be or should be learning as a result of these major news, media sensation moments? Let's start with inflation. The truth is that inflation is happening all over the world. That's a reality. Is it happening at an extremely fast pace here in the United States? Absolutely. Faster than we've probably seen in, I don't know, my lifetime. Yep. Is that concerning? Economically, yeah. We can only make so much money and print so much money and, create so much debt before it turns into a big problem, some type of a depression. I know I used a big depression word, and I know there's a lot of people who, are, especially in our media, that are avoiding that like it's the plague. And that makes sense to me, because that's going to, concern and potentially create some fear. I'm not saying it to create fear, but from a therapeutic lens, your stress goes up, pressure goes up. And at the very bottom, the people in the most need suffer the greatest. There's a reason why I think we're seeing so much additional theft, burglary, stuff like that. More drug use, because there's almost always more drug use when poverty increases. And so, yeah, you can go out and get a job making 15, 20 bucks an hour. But when the cost of a lot of the groceries that you buy, especially ones that have good substance to them, are up 40, 50%, all of a sudden that, a 25% increase just doesn't seem like very much. And, you look at the price of gas. Is it going down right now? Yeah. But how much up is it in the last 2 years? I mean, in my area, I'm still paying probably $1.25 to $1.75 per gallon more than I did 2 years ago. That's a lot of money. When we look at it, if I got a 15-gallon tank, that's a chunk of change every single time. So, we got to make decisions like, okay, do we drive less? Do we change our lifestyle? Now, I'm not saying all this as a complaint. It's just a reality. Look, at the end of the day, we here in the United States still have it better than most of the world. And so get off your high horse, just buckle down a little bit and get her done. Do the things that need to be done. It takes sacrifice. It takes a change of, what we may want, but we can do it. And then give more, help more. That's time, energy, and resources. If you've got lots of resources, donate more. If you don't have lots of resources, give more time. Because look, the thing that's going to help people the most is you stepping up to the plate and making a difference. All right. So there you go. Inflation, therapeutic take on it. Next topic. I got my trusty little notes down there. So if you ever see me look down, there you go. Russia, Ukraine. We have another spot of increased stress, pressure. Yeah, there are some people who really, truly believe we might be on the precipice of World War III. if we don't handle our business right. So from a therapeutic lens, I'm going to step into this from a cultural perspective. See, those of you who've followed me and listened for a while, culture is at the top. Underneath that would be politics, economics, all of that, education, stuff like that. Everything falls under the umbrella of culture. And I say that because this is one of those areas. What culture do we want? What I can see from this war in Ukraine, this invasion from Russia, what it looks like from my vantage point as somebody who studies culture as a way of helping people. And again, I don't claim to know everything, but what I see is I see a lot of weakness in our different governments of the world. I look at, I definitely, having served in the military, I have always believed that the United States is a very powerful culture. We haven't shown that in this situation. We've actually shown a lot of weakness, and that's okay. I'm sure there's a reason for it, but what concerns me the most is why aren't we very clear? It reminds me of, when I was in the military and I studied Vietnam, and we were not clear. And the result of that was a very mixed perception in our culture, a problematic mixed perception in our culture. There was a number of people that thought we were doing the right thing and a huge number of people who thought we were doing the wrong thing. And so we ended up with internal conflict while trying to facilitate a war that we didn't even often call a war because it wasn't for the longest time. We don't want to do that again. There's, the idea of staying neutral in the short term can make some sense, but culturally, there's strength in making decisions at some point. I get that there's strength in being neutral at certain points as well. But we've got to be really careful because right now, the clearest message that I'm seeing is a weak message. It's a mixed, we're in, we're not in, we're funding, but we're not really doing anything else. It's just sending these really strange sort of messages out there into the world. So that'll be one to pay attention to as 2023 rolls around as well. All right, moving on. Many of you have heard my J6, my January 6th stuff. I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but it is a highlight of the 2022 year. So I'm going to hit some key points real quick. And what we learned from a therapeutic lens. Drama in politics is setting the example that encourages people to try to make their own reality. Why do I say it that way? We have so much delusional thinking in our culture. When I look at the big picture, delusional thinking is problematic. Honestly, if I were going to, do a diagnostic criteria on our politics in the United States, it would be definitely schizotypal personality disorder. We don't have a good handle on reality in politics. Now, politicians might convince you, yeah, we have the reality, but they don't. And you get this accusational stuff. And then you end up in this January 6th committee. It brought that all to the surface. We have a delusional disorder. Schizotypal your personality disorder means we don't know who we are based on a reflection in reality. It's like going to a one of those circuses, and they have those mirrors, the really tall mirror, the really short and squat mirror, and the thin and then the fat, and then but which one is reality? Like the politicians in our culture right now are trying to convince you that the thin mirror or the fat mirror is your mirror. Like they're trying to convince you that that is reality. And they did that on the January 6th show. If you haven't listened to my January 6th stuff, go back, listen to it if you want. I think it was pretty interesting. We took obviously a clinical look at it, but it really is just drama. It's just a show. And the sad reality is there are facts in there that we all should be privy to, but the show is distracting us from the facts. The fact that you're not getting a secondary perspective, a third perspective, a fourth perspective on it is distracting from the good reality of some of those facts. Some things we probably need to deal with. No, we definitely need to deal with, but we can't because it's a show. It's not about actually dealing with them. It's about how great of a show can we put on. Okay. Mar-a-Lago, another big story this year. It shows the use of government levers for personal gain or team gain, right? We have a group of people that pulled this lever, right? In this case, and we see it on, in my opinion, we see it on both sides of the aisle. So this isn't just a diss on the Democrats, but in this situation, the Democrats are the ones who pulled that lever. And then pretended that they didn't, which is comical. Hello, delusion. The administration basically told the FBI, go do this, not necessarily go raid his home, the home of Donald Trump. But no, what they did was they said, we need to pull this lever. And the FBI said, oh, yes, sir, there we go. And then they took off and they started investigating. And then they went to his Donald Trump's home. They raided it. They found lots of stuff. Some of the stuff, which in all reality, we don't even know what most of that stuff is yet. It's still being held up. So, there's probably going to be some lingering effects of this next year. But what we know is that they found some stuff. What kind of stuff? I mean, look, if we're being completely transparent, some of it might not have been good stuff. Just like when they, discover that other presidents took things from the White House as well. And they're like, well, wait a minute, those need to come back to our records office. And then, the presidents typically turn them over. Was there some procedural issues with this? Yes, of course. Did enough of that stuff get returned on their own accord? Probably not. But what we learned from all of this, from a therapeutic lens, is that politicians in our country are, hold on a second, let me, it shows that our politicians are more interested in creating power than creating facts. That ties back also to that January 6th stuff. Create power rather than facts. The Republicans defended this. The Democrats persecuted. We ended up with a loss of the middle thinking, which tends to be the most reasonable. I know a lot of people are like, well, if you're in the middle, you're not picking a side, and what's your game? My game is creating reality, not necessarily what I want to be the truth, but what is the truth. Because from a therapeutic lens, when I work from a basis of reality, healing can happen. And in Mar-a-Lago, we found that the political sides, they just want to polarize this topic, unnecessarily defend, these actions, or, in some cases, unnecessarily persecute and keep secrets, tell lies, and be deceptive. So that's what happened. Okay, another big story of the year we're going to hit real quick. Brittany Griner gets released from Russia, and Victor Bout gets released. He's an arms dealer. She's a WNBA basketball player. And from a therapeutic lens, what this shows is that politicians still cater to social power and influence over things like, I don't know, loyalty to the country, stuff like that. Hey, here's why I say that. There are other people in prison around the world. We know that. And in many situations, We have Americans that are imprisoned for no particularly good reason. And yet, the politicians will spend extra time, energy, and give up resources. Resources like, I don't know, a arms dealer that is responsible for, tens of thousands, if not like hundreds of thousands of deaths because of his dealings, because of social power and influence in terms of politics. Now, I, for one, am really glad that Brittney Griner is home. I personally think that that's a better place to be than where she was. And I'm disappointed. I'm very disappointed that we are not doing that same kind of effort for other people who are captive for, political reasons. And we know that that's happening. How many? I don't know. I mean, truth is, I don't think we hear about our, POWs or prisoners of, it's not really war, misleading government things, we'll just say, enough. There are people who are supposed to be doing good things for the United States or for their belief systems. They'll travel and then they'll get persecuted. And we should do a good job of getting them home. Also, I also am concerned from a therapeutic lens of the idea of what are we willing to give up in order to get? Because in life, when I sit with a client, we talk about what are you willing to do, or how much work are you willing to put in for this to be different? And sometimes we put a lot of work into stuff that can be harmful to us. And this may end up being one of those. Am I glad she's home? Yes. But am I thrilled that Victor Bout was released? No. Hopefully that doesn't come back to haunt us in some way. But it is over now, and we're going to have to move on. I hope they're keeping an eye on him. I hope the FBI, the CIA, whoever's responsible for keeping an eye on him is actually going to keep an eye on him, and maybe focus our attention on things that actually matter, like, I don't know, that. All right. And then I got two more topics I'm going to just briefly highlight, but I am absolutely hoping to start off the new year with these topics, at least one of the two right away. All right. The last two I'm going to hit for news from 2022 and therapeutic takes on it. Twitter was purchased by Elon Musk. So back in August, at the very, very end of August, I did a podcast diagnosing Twitter. I am going to probably revisit that podcast with a new take based on what it's like for me now. So that was pre-Elon. That was before Elon Musk took over. He was at that point, I believe, still trying to get out of the deal. But now he's all in on the deal. And it has shifted Twitter. From my perspective. And so I'm going to probably come back and revisit that, but that is an ongoing issue. And it's very interesting because it's all around First Amendment stuff. At least in theory it is. But I'll re-diagnose Twitter based on current information. So stick with me. Hopefully that'll be coming in the next week or so. And then the last one, and I want to do a lot more in depth on this because culturally, I personally would like us to be a kind, respectful, loving, supportive people here in the United States. And unfortunately, there are times where we get in our own way. And so I want to come back to this topic, which is border, asylum, security. We're really talking about safety and resources, right? I've recently heard some stuff regarding the border, and people in border towns, they're running out of resources as the record numbers of people are coming across the border into the United States. Do I understand that people are leaving these other countries to come here? Of course. I mean, we still have the most free country in the world, probably, as far as I can tell. And people are going to want that. So that I understand. But this idea of asylum, there has to be a fear of persecution in your own country. And I'll get into the details of that for specific reasons in order to claim and receive asylum in the United States. So all of these people that are afraid are coming here. That's a bigger problem than having a bunch of, immigrants or refugees come to the country. There's something that should be managed there politically between countries, where there should be some negotiating and discussing of how to increase safety and security in your own country so that all of your people don't have to be fearful. Because that's a problem. These people are risking their life to come here. Like I said, I'm going to get into it more later on. I don't want to get too distracted, but that's going to be one that's fun. I'm putting together my notes for it right now. Hopefully next week, we'll be releasing that one, and we'll start off 2023 with a bang of, Twitter and the border security and asylum stuff. So that's what I got for you today. I hope this was kind of an interesting and quick recap of 2022. I know there's a lot of other stories I didn't even hit, like, a couple of them I wanted to hit, and a World Cup, shout out to Argentina. What a game. And Messi and France. I mean, they played fantastic. It was an epic game. It was probably, a game for a lifetime. So there's a ton of other stuff out there. I hope you enjoyed today's podcast, and do me a favor, like, follow, do all those things. And I appreciate your time. Have a good one.